mobilizing for from June 2009 until the spring of 2010. We had wanted to go as soon as possible. We wanted this flotilla to go the next week, but it was going to take a lot of fundraising and mobilizing in order to do so. And we were a small group of people that kind of grew out of the international solidarity movement, ended up calling it the Free Gaza Movement. We were not able to raise the money alone. But what ended up happening is a Turkish organization by the name of IHH that works in about 120 countries around the world on human rights and humanitarian relief. They worked in Haiti, they work in Pakistan, they work in other countries in Africa. They said, we'll come with you. So they pledged votes to our effort. Then we had a group in Greece that said, we'll come with you also. And Sweden, the same thing. And the European campaign that was working to end the siege of Gaza, they said, we'll come with you also. So now we had a 5-group coalition called the Freedom Flotilla Coalition. Each side pledged at least one vote to the action, and in May of 2010, we launched 6 boats, actually 7, one boat was a little bit late, but 6 boats carrying 10,000 tons of aid, and about 700 people headed for the Gaza Strip. I think some of you, if not all of you, saw what happened. We didn't get much media coverage in the United States for our previous boat missions, but I know this one did. I was on one of the boats called the Challenger 1. It was the smallest boat in the flotilla. It was a 24-meter yacht. And we had only 14 people on it, 5 of them American citizens. And it was an American flag vessel. We were sailing very close to the Mavi Marmara, almost side by side with the Mavi Marmara, which was the big ship carrying most of the passengers. In the middle of the night, close to midnight, May 30th into May 31st, the Israeli Navy got on the VHF radio and radioed us, calling our vessels pretty much by name and asking us to identify ourselves, which most vessels in our flotilla responded. I think 1 or 2 vessels just didn't even respond. But I responded for our vessel, gave them the information that they were asking, and then they issued a warning to us. They said that the area that we were navigating into is an area of hostilities, it is a closed military zone, and we were not going to be allowed to go in. They demanded that we turn our vessels around. I responded on behalf of the entire Freedom Flotilla, and I told them that we are unarmed civilians. We are not carrying any weapons. We are only carrying humanitarian aid destined for the people of Gaza. We don't constitute any kind of threat to the security of Israel or their armed forces, and therefore they would not be justified in using any kind of force against us. And I kept repeating that as they issued their threats, and they said that they would be willing to use whatever force necessary to keep us out of Gaza. We didn't stop. We did slow down a little bit, but we kept moving, and I kept repeating, we are unarmed civilians, we're not a security threat, don't use force against us. And I did it over an open channel radio so that other boats in the area could hear that we are letting Israel know we're not a security threat. A few hours later, they cut the communication for a while, they stopped radioing us, and then at about 4 o'clock in the morning, one of our colleagues that was on watch yelled down to us that they're coming. These were the Israeli naval boats that were surrounding us. We knew that, okay, now they're going to come out to do what they're going to do. So we put on our life vests and we went outside. I went onto the deck of the boat, and that allowed me to see the beginnings of the attack on the Mavi Marmara, again, because we were sailing so close to it. I saw, just what I saw with my own eyes, is one Zodiac filled with about a dozen or so soldiers, masked soldiers, coming up alongside the left side of the boat. And I heard a lot of shooting, and I heard sound bombs. Now, I'm used to this kind of shooting because in these demonstrations, they shoot in the West Bank. I've been in these demonstrations for 8-9 years prior. I mean, for those 8-9 years that we were demonstrating and continuing to in the West Bank, I've heard live ammunition, I've heard rubber-coated steel bullets, I've heard sound bombs, I've faced tear gas, so I know what this is like. And I was, in a way, expecting it. But the barrage of firing, I couldn't tell if this was live ammunition or what it was. And so therefore I was thinking, those people on those boats must be terrified, because we did prepare them, but you never can be, I don't think you can be totally prepared unless you've experienced it before. And even then sometimes you're not completely prepared. And so the way that the Israeli military attacked us, I think, was designed to instill fear in people. It was at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were still 70 miles out from the coast of Gaza. Traveling at 7 knots, that's 10 hours it would have still taken us to get to Gaza. They could have waited till daylight. Masked armed soldiers with face masks that they didn't take off, and coming up alongside the boats with shooting. Later, I saw some footage, and some of that shooting, at least, was paintball pellets. I could tell when I later saw footage. But that night, when they were shooting, I honestly couldn't tell what it was. And if I couldn't tell what it was, certainly those people that hadn't experienced this before couldn't tell what it was. And then I saw a helicopter up above. Then our boat decided to take off. And we did this. The initial plan was to stay together as a flotilla, but we needed, and we actually were radioed by the captain of the Mavi Marwa, the big ship, who said, go, try to get away in order to delay or prevent the takeover of our boat so that we could at least radio out, get some kind of information out that we were under attack. So we tried to stay away from the Israeli military for as long as we could. We had a photojournalist on board. We were trying to send out, we had satellite capabilities, and she was trying to email pictures out. We were trying to make phone calls, nothing. So we do think that our satellite systems were jammed at that point. And then after about 10 minutes, the Zodiacs that were chasing us overtook our ships. We tried to protect our boats with our bodies, basically just saying, don't come on board, but that didn't really work too well. They threw sound bombs on board. They used paintball pellets on our boat, and they were just knocking people down. They came on with an attack dog and masked, armed, and really just beating us down if we tried to get in their way. And we still tried to put our bodies in the way to prevent them from taking over our ship. But that didn't last too long. I had my head smashed into the deck of the boat, cuffed, bag put over my head, and dragged to a different area of the boat. And they pinned me down and were searching for any recording equipment I had on my body, which was mainly my phone. And to prevent them from getting it, I had shoved it down my pants. But they just pinned me down and had a soldier go in and grab my phone. And they took away all of our recording equipment, cameras, tape recorders, phones. And to this day, we don't have it back. We don't have it back, and yes, I could say, well, I want my computer back. But what's more important is that what we have on the recording equipment is evidence. Evidence of what really happened that night. And we called on Israel to, if they don't give it back to us, at least turn it over to the United Nations or some other neutral body, which they have refused to do. And this 5 months later, they have still refused to do. So this is tampering with evidence. We called for an independent investigation, and Israel refused to cooperate with it. They said that they can conduct their own investigation. The UN Human Rights Council put together a panel made up of respected human rights lawyers and jurists, a former judge in the International Criminal Court, former chief prosecutor of the International Tribunal for Sierra Leone. So these are respected jurists that made up this fact-finding mission, and they interviewed about 112 people and went over lots of evidence and forensic evidence